You are listening to The Ben Keech Show, where every day the objective is simple. Ben will never stop fighting the fight and lighting the light on topics that affect you every day.
Welcome all you single and married folks all across this beautiful country. My name is Ben Keech. This is the Ben Keech Show, and we are going to not really be talking about the married folks so much, but about the single folks. I have a couple of my single friends. I happen to be single. My name is Ben. I've got my friend next to me, Jodi
Cacioppo.
I still jacked it up. It's okay. I even wrote it out to sound like I knew what I was doing. I still screw up. Bruce Reynolds is much easier to say. Bruce Reynolds is. I'm not going to mess that one up. Otherwise, I should probably do something different with my life. We are here to have a conversation about issues, especially pertaining to men and dating and being single. Now, just so you're clear, Jodi is a full female.
Yes, I am.
But the idea is that she talks and dates single men and can help us with our perspective of what we're doing right or wrong, or what's going on out there in the world. So let me first start off and just kind of jump right into it. So when it comes to, and we're going to actually start with Jodi on this. So Jodi, you date men. So when you, in your experience, what are men doing right? What are men doing wrong in the whole dating? What do you see out there? What can you enlighten the crowd about when it comes to men and dating?
Men and dating. Well, thank you, Ben, for that question. The things that they're doing right, they're at least asking me out for dinner.
Okay.
Or going and doing things.
Right.
But what they're not doing right is they're not following up.
What do you mean following?
Like,
in what way?
I believe in the time that we have now, where we're at right now in our present time in 2025, that a man, if they don't enjoy the dinner that they had with you, then they should be able to follow up with, maybe you're not the right person for me, so good luck or whatever. They won't give you a call back, and they just... They ghost you.
Yeah.
They ghost you. And that's just dinner.
Right.
So can you imagine if something else would have happened and they ghost you? So that to me is, can we not get a follow-up? Because me as a woman would like to have maybe a second date. And I went out with several men and that happened. So
you're saying that you talk to somebody, you guys liked each other enough to go meet each other in person, you have a date, but then after that, like, not even a conversation.
Right, no conversation. Don't know what I did wrong, what I did right. Did I talk too much? Did I not talk enough? Or let's follow up. I've only had a couple of them that we followed up with it, but most of them, I don't know if I intimidate them. I don't know if I'm not enough or if I'm too much. But I think we need to grow as a woman, and for the man too. It's like, maybe you could have done this differently. I mean, it was dinner.
Yeah. What do you think, Bruce?
I think it's a cultural thing, right? Like, now everybody seems like they have 10 or 15 different options. And just from my perspective, it's very easy to go say, hey, good morning to 10 different people.
Right.
And so from the other side of that, if it doesn't work, you risk backlash or negative feelings versus just walking away. So sometimes that's why I could see that happening in some cases. So
people are afraid of the potential conflict with that, so they just...
The potential conflict, or I've seen where sometimes, people will feel disappointed and react. Just naturally, not out of any kind of negative feeling necessarily, but rejection is hard, and being honest is hard, and I think that's something... I'm a little younger, and in my generation, I think that kind of lacks a little bit more. Than in some of the people who are a little bit older than me.
Right. I think, like, with what you're talking about also, Jodi, is that I don't want, if I take a girl out and I don't want to take her out again, I don't want to tell her, like, the 7 things that she did right or wrong. Like, I don't even want to have that conversation. But I do think there should be a conversation of, like, thank you, it was nice meeting you. It may not be a romantic fit, but, I wish you the best. Like, I think that's sufficient.
No, I think that would be good too. There's a TikTok thing where they do the second date follow up with Ruble and whatever is a radio show.
Yeah.
Because maybe they had a really good time and then the person didn't follow up. And then they get the person on the phone, whether it's a man or woman, and he's like, well, yeah, she did this really weird thing that kind of freaked me out. That's why I never call back. Well, the girl never perceived that she did something weird because that's her personality.
Right.
So do you not be true to your personality and say, this is who you're going to get? Or do you hold back and then go, wait a minute, that's not how you were on the first date?
And it's tricky because I don't know. Like, I could have a perception of why I wouldn't think it's going to work in a long-term relationship. It doesn't mean she's doing anything wrong. It just means, like, I'm not seeing this as something that I don't know if I'm going to wake up next to you for the rest of my life. So I think that it's just best that we, take a different road. But it may not be a problem. Like, and so you can create a complex with someone if you're too, like, well, some guy or gal that gets too, like, rigid and strict on them and starts saying these things. I mean, I'm not trying to create a complex in someone either. You just got to go be yourself and figure it out,
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
I think the key to all of it is just be authentic.
Yeah.
Right. Regardless, and I go into this when I go on dates, I'm just myself, and you either are gonna like me or not. But I would rather just be that way from the get go, and you can make that decision right off the bat than 3 months and you find out somebody completely different.
Right. I think people would appreciate that. I mean, I think that's, if you can meet that expectation, then I think that's a positive.
Now, how about if a woman, because I'll even do this, I don't want freebie dinners. I'm not going out with a man because I need to eat that night, and I don't mind paying. Or maybe I'll get the drink bill because things are expensive out there. So I don't have a problem doing that as well. You know what I mean? We can go Dutch, or is that too much?
I'll give you my perspective. Every time that's happened, it hasn't gone anywhere.
When she's paid?
Yeah, when you typically, in my experiences, when the woman has paid half, it's because they're not that interested.
Oh, okay. So that's a perspective that I've not thought of.
Yeah.
But also from a woman's perspective, Bruce, what we would do is, I don't want him to think that, we're back in the 50s and you have to pay because you're the man. So.
And I think when you do pay, communication is important in that instance. Like, beyond the first date, right? Like, if we get beyond the first date and you're still interested, I think you communicate that.
Right.
Well, but Jodi, back in the 50s, our divorce rate was a lot less than it is now. So there's some things we can bring from the 50s.
And I wasn't born in the 50s, so it looked like, go ahead and talk about that. I know, because yes.
No, so,
Some of the old-fashioned values, in my opinion, they've changed.
Well, I'm sure you still open the door for a woman.
For the better, for the worse. What would be?
For the worse, I think.
Okay. What would be what?
I mean, and this will be controversial, but it ties into dating, right? Like, I don't think it was as easy to go and talk to as many people. I think social media has made it so that, the minute you're unhappy, you've got 10 or 20 other options.
Right.
I'm in a Facebook group, and this is how me and you met, Ben, is, there's 4,500 people in that group.
Right.
Just in Kansas City. And so when you start thinking about those numbers, I make a post, I got 30 comments, I could go and talk to any of those 30 women, and vice versa. The women can post an attractive picture,
right,
and they may have 20 messages.
Right.
And so from a value standpoint, it's much easier to just walk away now at the littlest thing rather than actually commit to someone.
Yeah, no, it's like walking through a mall. I mean, there's not one, then you got another store, you got another store. I mean, there's always next. But I think not everybody wants. It's also a rat race, and that rat race can wear people down. So I think
it does.
I mean, even people that I don't think ultimately most people want to take part in that, but it is there, and it is always there. It's not going away. I think that, like, going back to what Jodi, you were saying about paying. So I do not want. I actually take offense if a female is trying to pay. It's respectful if she wants to say, like, hey, we can do this. I'm like, okay, I got it. And I want it to be done. I don't want to say another word to you because to me, like, I'm looking at it from, also the masculine, feminine, like you are important enough to me. We had conversations. I know your name. I asked you out. You agreed. We're going out. So that means you have some value. So I understand that the context of like I'm gonna pay like as a man, like and you may have to pay for a lot of meals before you find somebody, but the bottom line is she's worth it enough. So she has to be able to receive a gift. She has to be able to receive, and then he has to be willing to do it. Because I've heard the flip side also where guys are like, let's just split it, we'll pay an hour. Guys that won't pay or guys that, and I've heard women complain about that.
Well, and I will tell you, I've never gone into a date not expecting to pay.
Right.
Especially a first date where we first meet. And like I said, to me, that's if a woman tries to pay, it's generally an indication that they're not that interested.
And that they're doing that to feel better about themselves.
Yeah, so that they don't feel like they're wasting your time or your energy going on a date.
Yeah. One of the examples that I have, we just met for drinks in the middle of the afternoon, and when the drink bill came, we got like a couple of snacks. He's like, "Wow, $50 for drinks." You know what I mean? And the waitress was very kind. She put it on his side of the thing.
Right.
But he seemed like he was offended that the drinks were that expensive. You know what I mean? So I was just like, oh, well.
Oh, I'm already, yeah.
I'll get that. When they do that, when they make a comment like, wow. Where is a woman supposed to do? Is she supposed to say, well, sorry, but, inflation?
Let me ask you this. Is that a turnoff for women?
To me, it feels like when Ben was just talking about our value, that he knew he expected it kind of thing. We both had the same amount of drinks. It wasn't like I outdrank him kind of thing. It was kind of a turnoff. It made me feel like I needed to contribute to the thing.
Right, and just from the other side, in my opinion, just coming from your side, is that it's always safer to not pay and to just go in expecting the man to pay. I've heard from a lot of women who say exactly what you said, that it is a huge turnoff when a woman is expected to pay on a first date.
Yeah. And then when you say thank you, at the end of the day, you're thanking you for showing your true colors and you'll never see me again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like that's what I'm thinking about, a guy that's whining about $50 and so like, okay, dude, like,
yeah.
if you don't know what you're getting into, like,
right.
You should have number one picked this place.
Yeah.
You know it's right in front of you. So you want to make me feel guilty? I would almost want to say like, I got mine. That's fine. No big deal. I'll never see you again.
Right.
Or just keep her mind.
And I never saw him again. You know what I mean? I paid for whatever, and then I never saw him again because, I was like, it wasn't that much. Now I did go on one date, and this gentleman was very, very wonderful. We had we went to a concert. I'd already had the concert tickets. You know what I mean? And so I'd already purchased those. I needed a date to go because my son couldn't go with me. And so he went with me, and he went spur of the moment. And then also he went and bought dinner that night, and he made sure we had an Uber ride and we were safe and stuff. So that one was equal because I already invited him somewhere, but then he treated me with respect and saw my worth and value.
And that is a little different scenario, I think. That's different than going out for like drinks or something where no one has paid anything into it.
Let me ask this question. So, what do you think, Bruce? What do you find is the difficulty with online dating and dating from a man's perspective? Like, what are you seeing that's good, bad? Like, how do you view all that?
I mean, I just think it's a lot of people get attention. And so it's very hard to weed out what is actual, genuine attention from people who are in an emotional place to date and what is just people who just want to feel better, maybe about themselves in some cases. And I think women struggle with the same thing. If you get a good morning text from 5 different men, how do you know what the person's after or anything about them? Trying to filter some of that attention to figure out who's actually serious and who might be a good match.
Yeah, I despise the good morning and all that junk because I feel like when you start that, you're basically setting, unless you're trying to have a conversation like that happens to be in the morning and so you just say good morning, but like, I'm not trying to start some habit with somebody who I don't even know their last name. Like, I'm not trying to like impress you by telling you good morning. I'd almost just rather wait till later just because I feel like it just is like, this thing that everybody does, and like, oh, he likes me so much, he said goodbye. No, he doesn't like you. He literally just sent that to 7 other people. You're not that important. So it just seems fake. Unless you actually really know the person and you're like, it's like more of a routine. Like, I feel like if you're going to do that, then it should be a routine because your relationship is moving somewhere. But if, like, I just went on a first date last night, and I'm like, hey, good morning. Like, okay, like, that's fine, I guess. But I don't know. Like, to me.
So what I'm hearing y'all say, both of you, that some men do that out of not really respect, but just to get them to the next level.
No,
the good morning text.
Not necessarily.
I think it's generic.
Yeah.
Is it generic?
Yes.
Okay.
It's generic, right? So like I'm texting you I might message you good morning, but there's nothing, and women I think this way too. There's nothing stopping me from saying it to 10 other women, right? Like it's generic. There's nothing specific to you. There's nothing original to our conversation that I think that adds.
We have to. I think the whole dating app thing and all the communication that's text message based, we have to keep connections going. So if I don't text you for a couple of days, you know, she's moved on, maybe I've moved on. And so there's an obligation of like, here's my daily connection. Maybe a conversation happens, maybe it doesn't, but it's just like, and so it's happening across the board, but it's just like a step to keep things going to see if something, and maybe they want something good to happen, but once you stop texting, they're done. Like,
well, and that's one of the challenges, right? Back to social media, one of the difficulties that you asked about is that you don't have a huge time frame. You know, like if you let a conversation die very long, there's somebody else there in a lot of cases, or there's some other conversation, or they're busy or whatever. So, you know, I think there's a window where you can't go like a week without messaging someone.
Especially if she's receiving 10 texts, good morning,
Yeah.
from all of these men. She's like, well, you know what? That guy's on
And I don't think that's all women receiving that, but I think that
Right.
I do think that women are receiving more than one message in a lot of cases, or may have more than one person they're interested in. They're trying to figure out.
they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, is that person a good match? Are they a good partner?
And some women don't know how to shut down a guy. So I've talked to women who they're getting a lot of messages, and honestly, they would like nothing more than to eliminate because it's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
Most women, in my opinion, are like a couple maybe, and like focus on that. But again, the dating app world, you open up your profile, you got 50 people following you. So what do you do with that? You like someone back, and then they're all messaging you. Sometimes it's hard for women to weed out. For us guys, we have to initiate. So we have to go and like them, and maybe they like us back, maybe they don't. I mean, we can still have a lot of conversations, but the women are overwhelmed with the quantity of potential conversations they have to have. And they don't want to do that. That's not generally speaking, I don't think that's what they want to do.
Well, and I'll give you a take, right? Like and this is the other side of like, and I think it's the same for women. Like the highly attractive women and men both, I think, get a lot of attention. And so, especially when you've got somebody who is
Right.
physically attractive or has strong characteristics that the other sex desires, I think especially in those cases that's probably true. I mean, I think it depends on the individual too. But
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that I think it's difficult to have lots of conversations with lots of people. So I mean, it's just tough to juggle. You don't even know who you're talking to half the time. And,
you want it to be genuine, right? Like I try and keep my conversations to a minimum amongst people that I've gotten to know, and kind of, you know, I don't want to have more than 4 or 5 going at once.
right.
Would you rather text or would you rather talk?
I'd rather talk. Honestly, the best thing for me is I want to meet in person.
Yeah, meet in person is definitely the best.
You know, I don't want, if I've got a conversation that's gone beyond a couple weeks where we haven't met, and that doesn't start to be part of the conversation, you may not be that interested in me.
Yeah.
Like I kind of want to meet you and get to, you know, because you don't know if somebody's the same in person or not, or if you click, or, you know. So I want to meet somebody in person. Like for me personally, you know, I'm in the group. I go to a lot of events for that reason, because I want to meet people, and I call it ships, like not necessarily relationships or friendships. I just want to meet people. If it's a friendship, that's great. If it's a relationship, that's great. But you don't know that until you actually meet people in person. And for me, I prefer that over apps and messages.
Right.
Are you in more than one group on Facebook?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple groups in the Kansas City area. Some are more active than others. Some are not even geared towards single people, and they're just people that I've met. I'm like in multiple group chats amongst people I met. So I've formed a lot of friendships that way.
Right.
If along the way I find somebody who's interesting, certainly I will pursue them. But I mean, I think that's kind of the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I enjoy meeting people.
Me too.
What do you think? I'm going to ask you this question, Bruce. I'm going to switch it up a little bit for you, Jodi. But for you, Bruce, what do you think? Whether it's yourself or just men in general, in your perception, you know, these men in these single groups generally, they've been married, they've been divorced, they have their kids, they're X amount of years old, they're thinking about the second half of their life. Why do some of them like really want to get married, and why do some like, I'm never getting married again? Like, what's the like? How do you see men in the commitment issue?
I mean, I think it varies. I mean, I think people are just at different stages emotionally. Some people really want a partner. Some people really just want to do their own thing. It's more of an individual thing than anything else. You know, for when I first got divorced, I really, really wanted to be in another relationship. And then I basically, and somebody always got told that was kind of needy and kind of, you know, not what people wanted.
Right.
So yeah, I learned to back off at least some, you know, and it's hard, you know, it's hard to know. It's hard to know when it's too much or not enough.
Right. What do you, so Jodi, from your perspective, do you think men and women's commitment issues are the same, that gender doesn't really affect it? Or do you think that it's like more women want to commit, men not as much? Or how do you perceive commitment in that regard?
I agree with Bruce where he talked about it depends on where you are in your life. You know what I mean? And, like he's still in his 30s.
Right.
So you mean so he might want a further commitment than me that I'm almost later in my 50s. You know what I mean?
Right.
So and it depends where you come from, because I came from a marriage. I was committed to a man for 26 years.
Right.
That is a long time. That's 2.5 decades.
Yeah.
I raised a lot of kids with him, you know what I mean?
Right.
And this is the first time in my life that I don't have to raise kids. I have a great job. I'm self-sufficient.
Right.
Do I want a commitment that I know I want another marriage? I like to have a partner that I can go do things with.
Right.
But that's funny that you asked that, because I just had with my coach today, one of our coaches, with our coaches, we talked about that, about the commitment word.
Right.
You know, what does commitment look like? Because I'm not really seeking, like, I got to have a man, but I want to have an adventure. But I like to have an adventure with a man. You know what I mean? But it doesn't,
cool.
you know, men are really cool, because I have a lot of females, and I'm like, trying to be in a third wheel or, you know, going on a cruise with a female. How would it be to be on a cruise with a man? But not knowing where it's going to go, and exciting, exactly. And not have twin beds and actually put that bed together.
I know,
you know what I mean? Because with my friends, we always have twin beds.
Right.
So yes, I want a commitment, but I don't know if I want to be committed immediately, because I think I told you I was in a relationship for 2 months, and it was like we're headed way down that road, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, I can't do this. This is way too much, too fast.
Right. You just have to communicate in advance. I think you need to know where you're at, what you want, what you're looking for, and say it. Mm-hmm. And if there needs to be follow-ups with that. I was talking to a friend of mine the other night. We went out for some drinks, and he's like, I tell girls off the bat, like, I'm not looking for commitment. And they're like, it's fine. And they start 2 months later, like, so what about that commitment? They're like, hasn't changed. It's like, and then they leave. But people sometimes try to see if they can change someone or change their mind. And if not, like,
well, and sometimes, you know, I think, like, some of the women will complain that the dudes are only after sex, right? I've heard that from a few women.
I've never heard that before.
You know, I've heard.
Just kidding.
Yeah. I know, right? Yeah, so
it's like never.
So like it's important. It's important though to be like authentic with what you're kind of looking for, right? Like you got to be somewhere in the same ballpark.
Right.
If someone comes in wanting marriage and you just want to go get laid,
right?
You know, that's not a good match.
No.
And I think sometimes people will come in and want to change that perception.
Oh yeah.
But it rarely changes, in my opinion. You know, where you're at is where you're at.
Yeah. Well, folks, we're going to wrap up this episode talking about just the dating adventures, especially a little bit from the man side with Jodi's great advice mixed in. What I need you guys to do is I need you guys to subscribe on YouTube. Help me out with that. Share the episode with friends. Tell us what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. You can see Jodi and Bruce's Instagram handles on the description and the notes. So if you want to message them and tell them great job and all that kind of stuff, they would love to hear that. But thank you for tuning in. We are gonna move on from this episode, and we will be back in a week for more exciting talk about dating and being single and all the ups and downs with that. Thanks for tuning in and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. You can reach out on Ben's website, www.benkeechshow.com, or on social media to chat. And please remember to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.